Is Great Gatsby greater than the Great British Bake Off?
Answer me this, answer me this.
Will Virgin Galactic ever actually take off?
Answer me this, answer me this. Helen and Ollie, answer me this.
Before you write in, listeners, with a very impassioned defence of either the Great Gatsby or the Great British Bake Off, thinking that I do have a side, I don't. I am ambivalent about both.
Yeah.
To pretty much an equal extent. So
and
save yourselves.
We are aware that Virgin Galactic has been running test flights. So don't tell us that.
Yeah.
But realistically...
None of us are going to get on it in our lifetimes, are we?
That's it.
Richard Branson is going to live till he's 250, so he'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, what we're asking, in essence, is it going to be everything it's cracked up to be? But obviously that's hard to encapsulate in a rhyming couplet. But just so you know, there's always more detail beneath the surface.
Well, you say that, but when people write in saying, why do you never answer the questions during the couplet? It's really because you can sort that out in your own time.
Yeah, well, you can hear the results now. You just end up with a lot of footnotes.
It's like the director's commentary, but this is actually the show. So without further ado, let's move on to a question.
Meta.
It is from Jack from Leeds, who says, I'm going down to London by bus at the end of the month to see an all-night film marathon.
Ooh.
The programme will finish at about 10 a.m, then I'll be waiting until about 5 for my bus back up to Leeds.
Ooh.
Oh, obviously I'll be horribly, horribly tired after more than 26 hours awake. So, Ollie, answer me this. Where can I catch a nap in central London? My only thought would be Starbucks.
Well, I think you could probably get away with an hour in Starbucks.
Oh, actually, there is a branch that is just north of Oxford Circus on the right as you go up Upper Regent Street. And they've got a downstairs and the staff are almost never there.
No one checks.
And it's windowless, so it probably seemed like permanent night if you wanted. And they've got banquettes, so you could just lie down.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? Sometimes you just find a little black spot almost, staff black spot. There's a Costa in Jermyn Street where I feel so confident that no one is going to go down into the dungeon bit.
You'd have a wank.
No, that I happily leave my iPad on display whilst I go for a wee.
Whoa.
Because I just like, no one's down here.
That is
no one's gonna see.
asking for trouble.
Yeah, in a way.
If the weather is fine, then the obvious solution, Jack, is to go to one of the parks and sit under the shade of a shady tree with your head on your luggage so that no one nicks it and have a lovely doze. Or go to a library. But if you do go to a library, go to one of the slightly shit ones, but make sure it has a toilet.
The other thing as well, I would say, if you analyse what you need for a comfy sleep, a dark room, no one bothering you, a comfy seat, I think a cinema is sounding pretty good.
That's what I was thinking. Go to the Prince Charles cinema and just have a lovely nap.
Or just doze off during your all-night film marathon, because frankly, why do you need to stay up all night watching films? I mean, it's a romantic idea, but it is, by 4 a.m, you'll probably fall asleep anyway.
Yeah, that's true. When Martin and I went to the Twin Peaks marathon at the Battersea Arts Centre, we did leave around 3 a.m.
Even though you couldn't hack it.
Well, no, it's just like, we've had enough now. Even though we were just about to get to the really good 3-episode arc where they reveal who done it.
Yeah.
It's very different going to bed late than pulling an all-nighter, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, I think, broadly speaking, I understand why films tend to be between 90 minutes and 3 hours long. I think that's a good length.
I don't think 3 hours long is a good length.
You say that, but actually, in the old days, when you got a 3-hour film, including when Titanic came out in a lot of places, they actually used to put an interval in it.
Yes.
It's only in the last 15 years that you've been expected to sit there for 3 or 3.5 hours for the whole thing without that.
Yeah.
Some films with an interval, beautiful Sunday afternoon, that, isn't it?
One thing you could have done in the olden days, but you can't now, is just sit on the circle line while it goes round and round and round and round.
Why can't you do that anymore?
Because it's not a circle anymore.
Is there not a perfect circle anywhere on the Underground?
No.
Good God. Boris, can you be
Outrage.
looking into this, please? This is a priority.
Broken the beautiful symmetry of London with this stupid yellowhead.
Hello, this is James in the Noodle Bar. Helen and Ollie, answer me this. Well, I've just called a lady I used to know a dick bag, and we were discussing whether a dick bag is it a bag that you might find adjacent to / attached to a dick, i.e. like a bag with some balls in it, or is it a bag full of dicks? And irrespective of the answer, is it an appropriate thing to call a lady who you used to know and whose floor you might have been sick on?
I think that very much depends on the lady. It's
Probably.
never appropriate to have called the Queen Mother a dick bag.
I think I've got quite a thick skin, but I might be a little bit perturbed.
I'm not sure you're really a lady. You don't subscribe to these values of ladylike behaviour.
I wear skirts.
You only today have twice used the phrase in front of me, pulling my dick.
But why is everyone pulling my dick, Ollie? Why do they pull it so hard?
It's nice. So I'd feel comfortable calling you a dick bag in theory, but I wouldn't. The thing is, it's a humorous phrase, isn't it? So if I'm actually angry with you, I'd say to you, why are you being such... I'd probably say something really soft, like silly cow, which
That's
would be
very
much
rude.
more offensive.
That's quite sexist.
Exactly. Whereas actually, if I said, oh, Helen, stop being a dick bag, then that's kind of funny and you'd probably smile, and then it's not the same.
There's two views on this, aren't there? First of all, is that it's not female gendered, so if you call a woman a female insult, that's very sexist. But like on the other hand, ascribing a male characteristic to a woman is equally sexist, isn't it? Because you're sort of denigrating the aspects of a femininity in service of masculinity.
Oh, it's not unfair. They get offended when you call them the C-bomb about their feminine parts, and now they get offended when you call them the D-bag.
Yeah. Okay, so dealing with the other part of the question, which is a little bit easier. I mean, it either is or isn't testicles or a bag of penises.
It makes more sense for it to be a bag of penises, doesn't it? But then it would be a dick's bag.
Actually, I'd never considered that it was the testicles, but I would argue that actually that does make more sense rather than what you said.
But then I would call someone a ball bag, if that's what I was going for.
But a ball bag is a dick bag, really, is it not?
It may be dick adjacent, Ollie, but it's not the dick bag. I mean, the dick bag implies that the bag is a part of the dick or for the dick storage.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, if I'm really thinking about what my mind's eye a dick bag is, it's probably just one dick, actually.
Really?
Right.
It's a bag for one dick, like a sheath.
So
like a horse has.
Yeah.
A horse has got a kind of dick, a heavy dick bag.
Sort of like a foreskin. Appreciate the human penis doesn't retract fully into the foreskin, but if, in that
that's
sense.
interesting. Yeah, no, I guess it is a bit like a foreskin.
Yeah. Or like one of those bags that carries a single tennis racket.
That's quite a sophisticated item to be called.
I'm trying to raise the tone, but I don't know why. We're talking about dick bags.
Controversial third option, of course, is that it could be the female part, could it not?
The lady's purse.
So the lady's purse is for stowing a penis, yes.
Well,
that's
so you're calling someone a vagina.
Actually, I find that very sexist.
I'm not saying it's for storage, but I'm saying for temporary accommodation of a penis, so is it possible that they mean vagina? You're a vagina.
Yeah. That's interesting, actually.
I don't think this is helping because we're not coming down on one answer. Right, I'm going to say scrotum. Martin, what are you going to say?
I'm going to say container for a single penis.
Yeah,
and you're going to say, right, so therefore
storage.
That's what it is, 2 against 1. A dick bag is for the temporary or full-term storage of a man's genitals.
Good.
Yep.
Glad to have sorted that out.
No, that's good, isn't it? We do the important stuff on this show. Who
Right.
needs Radio 4?
If you've got a question, email your question to answer me this podcast at googlemail.com. Answer me this podcast at googlemail.com.
Let's talk about love. We've got this
No, not
question
in that
from
voice.
Chris from New Zealand. I thought that was a reasonable approximation of a 70s soul singer type cliche. We all knew what I was going for.
Sounded like you were burping.
This is from Chris from New Zealand, who says, I need your opinion on something.
I can afford to give you that.
I have 2 friends. Let's call them John and Jane.
Okay.
They dated for a few years at high school, and they were great together. Mm-hmm. Earlier this year, Jane decided she wanted to go to Camp America and was successful in getting in. Then, John and Jane decided to break up over this time while she was in America, so they didn't have to worry about each other. So they could, quote, learn more about each other.
That doesn't work when you're on different continents.
It doesn't really, does it?
You learn more about yourselves
Yes.
and other people's genitals.
Yes. And so that the time apart wasn't so tough. Mm-hmm. I was fine with this.
Oh, good, because they did it for you.
It's very gracious of you, Chris, since you have absolutely no role to play in the intimacy of their relationship whatsoever.
Yeah, he's not one of John or Jane, is he?
No, he's not.
He is a bystander.
That's right.
Okay.
But it's good to know that he was fine with it, then he got not fine with it.
I sense that something must have changed.
What happened?
However, continues Chris, I discovered that they have since started a fuck buddy relationship.
How dare they, these people that used to love each other, continuing their special friendship?
They hang out, just the 2 of them, a lot.
Whoa.
Having sex.
Outrageous.
Madness.
He often refers to her as, quote, my girlfriend, even though she isn't.
She kind of is, though.
And it's really weird, 5 exclamation marks.
But it kind of isn't.
No, it's not weird, is it? And also, former girlfriend is a cumbersome thing to say. Like President Clinton is always President Clinton. It's not going to be former President Clinton.
This is, maybe John could say, this is my past and perhaps future girlfriend.
Yeah,
Is that all Chris has got to say?
What is Chris's question?
Helen, answer me this. Is this weird?
No.
You made it weird, Chris.
And what should I do?
Nothing.
Should I get in the way?
No.
Leave it be?
Yes.
Offer a threesome?
No.
Please help me, guys.
I don't know how to help you,
Is
Chris.
he trying to tell us he wants the threesome with these 2? And that's
I think
why
he
he's getting
kind
into
of inadvertently let that slip, even though it was supposed to be a humorous joke at the end.
Why isn't John
That's
calling
weird,
me
isn't
his
it?
girlfriend?
Yeah, I think there might be an element of this, Chris.
Yeah, maybe if I got off with John, that would make Jane really jealous. LOL.
I'm baffled, Chris, as to why you think you have some need to intervene in this.
I mean, I agree with you. I think Chris has issues, and it's nothing to do with him. However, myself and my girlfriend went to school with a mutual best friend. We went out briefly when we were 16. When we got together again when we were 22, not knowing if we were going to be, as John and Jane are, fuck buddies, or whether we were going to have a long-term relationship, we were concerned about how we told our mutual friend, because we knew that he would be saying, oh God, it didn't work last time, and oh God, are you sure you want to do this? And it's like we were perfectly fine, but we knew that his reaction would be difficult. So I think Chris is actually sort of living the very issues that we were concerned that our mutual friend might feel.
Okay.
He's confused by it somehow because his two friends, he thought it was over, he got his head around that. Now they're back together, but they're not. Maybe he is worried on some level about Jane's feelings, for example, in the long term. And, you know, maybe he's actually being nice by being concerned, even though, as you say, his concern is misplaced.
Well, yeah, I just don't really understand why this is a problem for him, why his friend's private life is a problem. He said these people went out for several years. There's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
It's not a particular shock that if they're on the same continent, they might have rekindled some of their relationships. It sounds like they didn't break up through mutual antipathy.
Yeah. I guess he probably thinks, oh God, well, they're back on the same continent. Why don't they just get back together or not? The truth is, relationships can be more messy than that, can't they, Chris, in reality?
I mean, when Chris says he's referring to her as his girlfriend, even though she isn't, how does Chris know that she isn't?
Yeah, how do you quantify that?
Does he mean even though she wasn't?
Yeah.
He needs to reconcile himself to the fact that things change.
Yeah, maybe she goes in and out of girlfriend status as the UK economy does a Moody's rating. You know, it's not for keeps. You know, you can assume that you're a girlfriend. Next week, you're not a girlfriend.
You just gotta go with it, Chris, seeing as it's none of your business.
Yeah.
Bum 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 bum. Helen Ollie, answer me this. Don't ridicule me and don't take the piss. Give me a clue to what I'm asking. Then in your awesome knowledge I'll be basking. Martin Soundman, I'm so alone. No one to email and no one to phone. Where can I get new friends from? Answer me this podcast.com.
So, retrospectors, what historical events are we ticking off on this week's run of Today in History?
On Monday, the anniversary of the day Ozzy Osbourne and a bat came face to face on stage.
On Tuesday, we go back to the future with a potted history of the DeLorean.
On Wednesday, why is the Pope guarded by those guys in floofy hats?
On Thursday, how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ended up in Cleveland.
And on Friday, was Henry VIII really an asshole, or was it just the result of a jousting accident?
We discuss this and more on Today in History with the Retrospectors. 10 minutes each weekday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Time for a question from Mark from Columbia, Missouri, who says, recently I moved about 300 miles to be closer to my family. My sister-in-law gave me an indoor plant as a housewarming gift. Herein lies the problem. I have a green thumb, but I dislike the particular type of plant that she gave me.
Well, that's what chainsaws are for.
The plant was expensive, but one of those that refuses to die. So Helen, answer me this. How do I commit murder on the plant, not the sister-in-law, and get away with it?
Apparently, one of the easiest ways is to overwater it, especially with hot water.
Yeah.
And few plants like to be waterlogged.
Yeah.
So she might notice, but she can't really rectify overwatering, whereas underwatering, like trying to dry it out,
That's right.
she could.
It's the perfect crime, isn't it? Because even if she catches you in the act, watering can in hand, she won't question it. You're
It's a
standing
normal
there-
thing to do
It's a
with
normal
a
thing.
plant.
Oh, hello! I'm just watering your plant that you gave me because I love it so much.
Yeah, well, other options that people suggest include watering it with bleach, which will make your house smell, and she would, I think, notice that more. Vinegar or salt water as well, apparently.
I'm
very
not sure
bad.
any of these are brilliant, actually, because I think the whole plan of killing the plant is maybe not best advice. The reason for that is... If she says what happens to the plant, you say, oh, it died, she may buy you another one.
Yep. Yeah.
You haven't dealt with the fact that you don't like the fucking plant.
I think there is a danger that if you kill or break the plant, your sister-in-law will buy you another one. I don't think she'd buy you a third one if you'd proven so careless and useless, especially if it is an expensive plant.
I think the best thing is deliberately, so she sees, but not in a way that she'd complain about, just put it in a place where you don't really see it.
Oh yeah, like outside by the bins. Maybe someone will take it away.
That's maybe a bit far, and perhaps it's not going to get a lot of natural light, so it will be be slowly dying over time.
There's a thing. If you put it in the wrong conditions, if it's a sun-loving plant, put it in the shade. Or you could look up on the internet this type of plant and Google begonia problems, say, if it's a begonia. And if they're like, oh, your begonia is getting too much sunlight, you'd be like, aha, I'm going to put it in the sun, right? So do the opposite of what they say you need to do to cure your plant of an illness.
Could it accidentally on purpose fall out of the window as well?
Absolutely it could. Ollie, plants are always moving of their own accord in a very self-destructive way.
Not suicidal plants like that. It's the biggest cause of death amongst plants.
Well, if you've got a pet, you could say that it was the pet that did it, or if you've got a kid, you could say it was the kid that did it.
Yeah, or you could tell her you're allergic to it, and then she wouldn't buy you another one.
I actually am sentimental about plants rather than aesthetic, weirdly. My dad's family run a butcher shop.
Yes.
Still do.
Yes.
Did since 1940-something. My mum's mother was and is a customer of that butcher shop. In fact, that's how my parents met. My mother was going there to buy some chicken for her mother and started speaking to my dad, who was working in the shop.
I think you can revise this and answer me this 200 if you want.
Oh, really? Yeah,
I think maybe your grandma talks about it.
Yeah, you're right, yeah. My grandmother's been a client of that butcher shop for ages.
Yeah.
And in the 1960s, my dad's mother gave all of the home delivery clients a free plant with their home delivery as a, thank you for, I think it was probably a Rosh Hashanah present. And my grandmother, my mother's mother, has kept this plant, which was given to her by my father's mother, alive since the 1960s. And of course, now it has significance, only really to me.
Like the mousetrap. That people want the mousetrap to keep going just because the mousetrap has kept going for so long, even if they don't like the mousetrap.
Well, I suppose for my mum's mum, that's the only significance it has is the longevity. For me, though, uniquely, it is a present given from my paternal grandmother to my maternal grandmother before they even knew that each other would become that. So for me, it has incredible significance. I'd like to have that plant in 50 years and say to my grandchildren, your great-great-grandmother gave this to your great-great-grandmother and I'm still keeping it alive. But I can't. She gives me a cutting from it every year and it always fucking dies.
It's like that plant's cutting is your sibling and you don't want a sibling because it's competition.
No, I don't. That's right, yeah.
That's probably it.
Maybe there is like a rival Little Shop of Horrors style Ollie Mann disaster that could come out of the birthing of this plant if I keep it alive for too long.
Yeah, maybe you should start giving the plant a little cutting of yourself every year, like a toenail clipping, and see if it can grow a new Ollie Mann for a spare.
Hi, Helen and Ollie from Newcastle. I'm just reading on the internet that President Obama receives gifts of politicians and of royal members and family and etc. And he's not allowed to accept them. So what is the actual point, Helen and Ollie, answer me this, of actually giving them presents because they're not allowed to use them? Like he literally got a gold carried watch for his wife that's worth $48,000 and it's got to stay in a locker. I don't get it.
Is Barack Obama not even allowed Christmas and birthday presents without it being problematic politically?
Well, never mind problematic politically, there's problems for security.
But you couldn't even have a cracker in the White House because they might think guns were being fired.
Well, basically...
There was a cracker in the White House until Obama got in. What?
No, but there's a security issue about getting anything in, but that doesn't mean that you can't. But the thing is, presidents over time have attracted presents from ordinary members of the public who feel like, as their representatives, they deserve the sort of presidential equivalent of the bottle of whiskey you give the postman at Christmas.
I don't think you need to worry. It's not like teachers where at the end of Christmas term you think, to give them a box of nice biscuits or something because they're underpaid and they're very overstretched.
Yeah.
The president, obviously it's a difficult job.
Yes.
But it has its perks.
It does.
Air Force One being one of them.
Yeah. But if you send, for example, food, drink, anything perishable, and colognes, anything that gets applied to the skin, that gets instantly destroyed the moment it reaches the White House.
Right.
They cannot let it through security.
That was kind of like when I had to filter the presents sent to the BBC newsreaders.
Oh, really? Anything perishable they didn't get?
Food. Unless it was a hamper from Harrods, Sophie Rayworth was fine with eating those.
Interesting.
But not the half-empty box of Nesquik.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And you'd assume that someone who's weird enough to send a half-empty box of Nesquik to Sophie Rayworth probably has wanked in it. That's the thing. So I think it's a reasonable precaution, isn't it?
I think you'd hide it in a mini milk or something.
So yes, there's a brilliant little statement on the White House website, which is basically written for the slightly odd people who send presents to the president, which says, whilst President Obama, the First Lady, Vice President Biden and Dr. Biden appreciate your generosity, they request that instead you look to your local community for opportunities to assist your neighbours in need. I mean, that just seems to me that sentence might as well finish with, you massive idiots, why are you sending us food and drink?
I'm not sure whether the Bidens are going to be quite as stringent as the Obamas. I bet the Bidens would love a bit more attention. So are there any punter gifts that they will accept, though?
Yeah, letters.
That's not a gift.
Well, you know, a letter and a photograph of the moment that the president met your disabled daughter that you wanted to send.
But I mean, things like teddy bears that people always send.
Basically, no.
They could be bombs. That's why they send them off to the children's hospital.
Well, they give them to charities and stuff, which is, you know, the same thing that the Queen does here. But what's brilliant is if you do want to send a package to the White House, it does also specify on the side that you do use the full address. It's like, really? What kind of lazy postman is like, the White House? Never heard of it, mate. What's the postcode?
They probably mean the White House in Sevenoaks in Kent.
And you can even put the White House, Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, but because you haven't put the zip code, it might not reach them. I mean, would that really ever happen? No. So for the issue of foreign gifts, though, then there's a whole different basket of worms.
You often get a basket of worms from some of those foreign dignitaries, don't you? It's all they've got.
I think exactly. Some countries where they're struggling to really raise much capital to buy anything else. I mean, if Cyprus at the moment gave you a box full of worms, you'd be very grateful.
And also in Mexico, they could send you a box full of tequila worms.
So, when it comes to these gifts, the reason they give them, Sarah, is because there's a tradition of giving them. So it's embarrassing if you're the first politician to turn up empty-handed. It is not supposed to be really a gift to the president. It's a gift really to the nation that you're visiting.
Right. So it's like when you turn up at a dinner party and you're just thinking, it's embarrassing to turn up with nothing.
Obama was given, from Berlusconi, in 1 year alone, 12 silk ties. One for every month that they met.
He's such a bellend, isn't he, Berlusconi? That's like the real dad gift to give to Obama.
So is there any problem with those gifts being seen as bribes? Or having financial value that the president is not really allowed to accept?
Yes, there's a huge issue, and that's why they're seen as gifts to the nation if they're over a certain value. So the value gets set by this bureaucratic body at every term of a new president, and they get to decide if it's over a certain value, whether it becomes part of the Presidential Library Museum collection, or whether the president and the first lady should be entitled to offer to buy it at a fair market price.
Okay, so that body, they could be really jaundiced against a particular president. So they could say, oh yeah, let's give George Bush a £10,000 gift allowance, let's give the Obamas 10 quid.
Yeah, they could be. But actually, it must be quite difficult if you're given a beautiful watch by the King of Jordan, and then you think, okay, I've got to declare that because it's worth $100,000.
Yeah.
And then the gift unit say, okay, well, we can put it in the presidential archive, or you can buy it for $100,000. It's that little bit harder, isn't it, when you've had something for free for a time, when you've had your free trial, as it were.
Yeah.
Quite hard to then say, actually, yeah, I'm not going to buy it. I reckon presidents have probably spent tens of thousands of dollars on things they would otherwise not buy because they were given to them by the Pope or whatever.
Like ties.
Like ties,
Now that Berlusconi's gone.
Yeah.
He's got to buy his own ties.
Actually, to be honest, I wouldn't trust Berlusconi with much, but I would trust him to source a good Italian silk tie.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And a good underage Italian woman.
And a prostitute to tie her up with it. Yeah.
I don't know about you, listeners, but sometimes I reach the end of a podcast with a wanton craving for more. In such moments, I confess I have recourse to the Answer Me This app on the iPhone and, additionally, in times of dire need, Android, upon which I have indulged in the weekly bonus material and over 3 hours of best bits.
Here's a question from Sam and Fox, who are currently in Manhattan but normally live in London. And they say, we are currently on holiday in the US city of New York. We visited the Brooklyn area of Dumbo, and my girlfriend swears that it is named after the big-eared Disney elephant. So, Helen, answer me this. Which came first, the Disney character Dumbo or the New York suburb Dumbo? And are the two related?
It's down under the Brooklyn overpass or something.
Down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass.
There we go.
So it's just an acronym?
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with the elephant, has it?
But I think had the elephant not existed, because the name Dumbo was from 78 and the Disney film was from 41, they might not have chosen that acronym, right? Because you could just call it Umbo, couldn't you? You don't need the down. But apparently they chose the name to deter property developers, because it was an area that had been previously industrial, and then a lot of artists went and lived in the industrial buildings that were no longer being used. And then gentrification they saw was encroaching, and they thought, you know what, we'll get rid of them, a name that makes it sound like a shit place.
Oh.
Didn't work, of course. So formerly it was called Fulton's Landing, and also Rappai, Olympia, Gareville, or Wallentersville. So it had quite a lot of crappy names.
I think you'll find Wallentersville was the original title of the Disney film as well.
And it used to be an area where they manufactured boxes and Brillo pads. And now hipsters.
Oh, yeah, is it? Is it quite a trendy area?
It's where Dan Humphrey and his annoying dad lived in Gossip Girl. That was where that was set.
You see, now this is the thing that they couldn't have really accounted for when they decided to name the suburb after the film in some way, which is, of course, that adults have become infantilized and nostalgic for childhood entertainment. So actually, you're making this an almost enduring appeal now by naming it after a classic animation, an enduring appeal to hipsters.
Yeah, and they have renamed Cobble Hill Fantasia after the Disney film.
Is that really true?
No, of course not.
I could believe that. Because the thing is, that there are parts of America that are newer than Disney films, aren't they? It's not that unreasonable that they might name them after... I mean, it is also an indigenous cultural achievement, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, whereas for us, it seems ridiculous that you name something after J.K. Rowling when you could name it after Dickens. But if you're American, actually Disney, quite a big deal.
Yeah, but Disney is not a very New York-y thing, is it?
No, that's true. Although, actually, Dumbo, they've got the racist crows, haven't they? They're quite New York. I never seen an elephant fly. they'd go and live in Dumbo, those guys.
They probably couldn't afford it now.
I, in fact, have never seen Dumbo.
I've never seen Dumbo.
And I think the reason I never saw it was, even as a Disney-obsessed child, I knew my statutory rights. And I remember picking up the VHS box, and it said on the back, length, 61 minutes approx.
Is that good or bad?
Bad.
Short,
Approx or not, I can get myself Pinocchio, which is, 92 minutes.
Oh, so you were seeing the financial value broken down per minute?
Yes.
And young Jew Ollie Mann, Disney fan, went for the good value Disney.
Absolutely.
So,
but in fact, I had cottoned on to a financial mechanic behind Dumbo in the first place. Apparently, the Walt Disney Company actually deliberately made a short feature, as short as they could make it, to recoup some profits that they'd lost on Fantasia, which had been a massive flop.
Fantasia was a flop.
Yeah. What a surprise, eh? What do kids love? Broomsticks and classical music.
A question of hygiene now from Steve, who says, at work, in the gents' toilets, there are sinks with the urinals round the corner. Pretty much a standard arrangement, I think.
Sinks and urinals.
I thought you were supposed to wash your hands in the same. Anyway, says Steve, I had a cup of coffee, and on my way to our locker room, I popped into the gents to do my business.
Why are you doing your business in the gents? Don't they give you a desk?
It's called hot desking, Ollie.
I placed the cup of coffee by the sink, did my deed, washed my hands, then left with my coffee.
Right.
On the way out, I bumped into a female colleague who was about to piss in the urinals. Sorry, no. Who was horrified that I'd gone into the gents with my coffee.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like I'm making coffee with toilet water, or that there are poo or pee particles floating around to fall in my coffee. Well, there are if you're flushing. Then the small water droplets do go about 6 feet.
Well, also, I mean, I know he specified that he put his cup of coffee on the sink, which is around the corner from the urinals, but if she's a lady that has never been into the men's toilets, which is probably most of the ladies who work in your office...
Unless you work in Ali McBeal's office.
She might not know that. She might be thinking, oh, did he just rest that cup of coffee
on the
top of the toilet?
Yeah.
And then there could potentially be poo and pee particles, couldn't there? That's the thing.
It's in a toilet. You know, the air just doesn't seem that edible or drinkable.
Yeah.
Steve says, Ollie, answer me this. Is it really bad form to do this? I.e., take your coffee into the loo?
Well, actually, the way you just put your little IE adjunct onto the end there, take your coffee into the loo, when you look at it that point of view, if you're actually taking it in to drink it...
On the loo?
It's not for everyone, but I think that's fine. I'm happy to support that.
Sometimes you have no choice if you're in a public place and you knew that if you left it outside, it would get thrown away.
Well, it's the takeaway cup thing as well. You know, if you've popped into Starbucks or a tax-paying coffee shop on the way into work, you might then, go into the cubicle and put it down, as you say, on the cistern. If it's there whilst you're doing your business.
The only times I've been into Starbucks in the last few years have been to use their toilet.
Exactly.
And if I can do that without buying a drink, that's fine. Sometimes I'll just sit by someone else's old cup.
I'm just saying if it's there, if the cup's there on the cistern next to you and you're doing a 7-minute, I can see that you might be tempted to take a swig.
I suppose all of those particles are present in the same room as your mouth. So
Exactly. But also the irony is, bathrooms are often the cleanest place in an office.
Whoa there, Tiger. What are you saying?
Well, because they're cleaned regularly, aren't they? Because they're a place where you go and do number twos. There's that little checklist on the back of the door in a busy office. Someone comes in every hour and looks at it. Your desk, your computer at your desk might get cleaned once a fortnight. And that's going to have loads of, not literally crap.
Well, you do crap on your keyboard, don't you?
Well, I do.
You like to get it onto the P.
I think the bottom line, if you'll excuse the pun, is that toilet etiquette is not always rational and logical. It's like when someone pisses on the seat, you go in, it wasn't your piss on the seat. It's probably best to clean up the piss on the seat because the person who's going in next will assume you've pissed on the seat and left it there.
You're such a utilitarian, Ollie. It's amazing.
No, but Ollie Man doesn't clean up the piss on the seat.
I do sometimes, but
It's because I hectored you about it.
Yeah, you did. I did.
Be the better man,
I said to Helen proudly that I just left the piss there because it wasn't mine, and the woman who looked at me skeptically as she walked in.
Forward, Ollie.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you're right.
Piss it forward.
No. The thing is, I think it's wrong. I think it's illogical, but I think you're right that it's worth doing just to make everyone's life easier.
Ollie, for evil to triumph, it only takes good men to stand by.
Well, listeners, for silence to triumph, all it takes for you is not sending us your questions.
That's
so
right,
please email, phone, or Skype. Our contact details are on our website,
AnswerMeThisPodcast.com,
where you can also hit the button to get our free Love Film trial for a month of viewing pleasure.
I have been watching a lot of The West Wing on Love Film, which I enjoyed just purely because every time Martin Sheen stands up, a trumpet appears to play. Which I think is
One kind of wah, 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 wah.
a patriotic trumpet, Helen, not a wah-wah trumpet.
Okay, and not a kind of Herb Alpert to on a brass type trumpet.
No.
Bye!
Helen and Ollie,